My name is Kusun. Today, I'm going to share with you the unspeakable true story of my life, something that happens to only a handful of women in the world. This experience is so rare that most people don't even know it's possible. Until it happened to me, my family and I had no knowledge of it either, and I don't even want to recall the depth of shock and turmoil it threw us into. Perhaps, though, my story can serve as an encouragement and a comfort to others who might find themselves in a similar situation. If I were to describe myself, I am like a small flower that grew up between two large protective shades. One shade was the mother who gave birth to me. The second was my grandmother, whom I considered my second mother. I grew up viewing my mother as an older sister and my grandmother as my true mother. This might sound strange to many, but that was the reality in our home. Growing up with my mother and grandmother is one of the reasons I remember my childhood so fondly. My grandmother gave birth to my mother, and my mother gave birth to me. Both of them, living in the same house, raised me as mothers at the same time. You see, my grandmother had my mother when she was very young. My mother, in turn, had me at the very beginning of her own youth. Because the age gap between us all was so small, our relationship was far different from the typical bond between a mother and daughter or a grandmother and granddaughter. I was the angel of the house, the one whose every command was obeyed, whose every wish was granted, the one blessed with an abundance of love. My mother and grandmother practically competed to raise me. My grandmother would say, "Kusun, my daughter, you are mine," while my mother would argue, "No, she is mine." To me, it felt like a contest of affection, and I, caught in the middle, was always proud and content, showered with their endless love and care. To this day, I have a particularly special bond with my grandmother. To me, she is a wise woman who tells ancient tales, a constant comforter by my side, and a lifelong friend with whom I share all my secrets. Her words are filled with wisdom, and her hands are a living source of loving warmth. Growing up in this atmosphere of love, I eventually came of age. Like all my peers, my heart began to yearn for love. That first love, the kind that fills your heart with an inexplicable feeling, the kind that makes you see the world through new eyes. I met Josie through one of my closest friends, Sarah. Josie. His very name evokes a feeling of strength and boldness in me. He was an incredibly handsome, yet ruggedly masculine young man. Yes, his beauty was a powerful trap, capable of tempting not just me, but even married women. His stature, his physique, his face, they were all carved like an ancient Roman statue. His eyes were unique. One moment they would shine with the innocence of a child, the next they would darken with the cunning of a wolf. His smile could melt your heart, but it also hinted at some hidden danger. Despite all his beauty, his personality was difficult to even be around, let alone love. He was incredibly irritable, quick to anger, and utterly indifferent to the feelings of others, often full of arrogance and disdain. His motto was, "This is who I am. Those who like me can like me, and those who hate me can hate me." Knowing all this, the fact that I fell in love with him remains the most bewildering part of my life. How could Ksun, the girl who was raised with so much love and pampering, fall for Josie, the notorious bad boy? This is a question I have asked myself time and time again, because every time I went to see him, longing for his company, I would return home having been met with undeserved words and contempt from a man who was quick-tempered and dismissive of my feelings. Sometimes he would say, "You just don't understand me." Other times he would wound me with, "Don't say such foolish things." What was worse, he would often try to ignore or embarrass me, even in front of his friends. And yet, despite all of this, I loved him. Yes, I loved him. The feeling I had for him was more than love. It felt like a pull, an addiction. Like a piece of iron drawn to a magnet, I was drawn to him, even though I knew the pull was dangerous. He was so bold and reckless that he was the same when it came to physical intimacy. He would often tell me bluntly, "Don't get too close. One day I might just rape you and disappear." His words stabbed me like thorns, and my heart would tremble with fear. But what made him unique was that, while he said these things, he never actually acted on them. Torn between fear and love, I would plead with him through tears. "Josie, my love, you know how I was raised. I am a virgin. I am a girl raised with honor. Please don't disgrace me. Anything else, do as you wish. But this, I beg you, you can only do this on our wedding day. Then all of me will be yours." I would continue emotionally. "The two women who raised me, my mother and grandmother, have done so much for me. The only way I can repay them is by making them proud. Their only desire is to see their daughter marry with her honor intact, to be a source of light for them. Please do not steal this one happiness from them." Josie, as stubborn and confrontational as he was, would occasionally listen if you spoke to him with gentleness and humility. The small glimmer of compassion in his heart would sometimes shine through. And so, hearing my heartfelt plea, he gave me a response that soothed my soul. "All right then, Kusun. Don't worry. I give you my word I won't do it. And Josie's word is his bond." I began to relax. The fear I had lessened, because I knew that no matter how bad Josie could be, he was a man of his word. Once he made a promise, it was as solid as a rock. On top of that, I trusted him more than I trusted myself, or perhaps I desperately wanted to. From the day Josie gave me his word, our relationship took on a new form. The fear of being violated was gone from my heart, and I began to feel a greater sense of freedom. Whenever he said, "Come over, I miss you," it became inevitable that I would go and spend the night in his small room. The reason, love. The longing, the desire, the urge to be with him was stronger than any fear or caution. But just as he had promised, we never did anything more than kissing and intense touching that pushed boundaries. Our kisses would last for hours, soul-stirring and filling my heart with fire. Our touching would bring us to the very edge of ecstasy, as if our bodies were being struck by electricity. Josie, determined not to break his word, always had the strength to pull us back from the brink of consummation, even at moments when, driven by passion and love, my body language gave him every signal that I was ready for anything. This behavior began to make me fall in love with him all over again. It made me believe that this aggressive, chaotic Josie, who never once called me by a sweet nickname and seemed to show me little respect or affection, would never truly hurt me. His actions contradicted his bad boy image, becoming a symbol of honor and trustworthiness to me. And belief took root in my heart. Yes, Josie has a bad temper, but his heart is pure, and he honors his word. But in the midst of all this, while I was intoxicated with my love for Josie and seeing the world only through the lens of romance, my health began to deteriorate in an unexpected way. I started feeling constant fatigue and pain. At first, I dismissed it as something minor. "It's probably just stress from school or exhaustion from staying out late," I told myself, ignoring it. But the pain grew stronger, and the fatigue began to prevent me from carrying out my daily activities. Even worse, my body, especially my abdomen and legs, began to swell day by day. The clothes I wore started to feel tight, my agility diminished, and my face took on the appearance of someone stricken with illness. I kept this sickness a secret for months, hiding it all by myself. I didn't even tell Josie. Firstly, I didn't want to worry him, and secondly, the situation didn't seem that serious to me. I held on to the false belief that it will pass. But when it became more than I could handle, when the pain became unbearable and the swelling was visible to others, I had no choice but to tell my family. One evening, as my mother and grandmother were sitting in the living room drinking tea, I told them everything I was feeling. Their faces were instantly covered with shock. The laughter and conversation that usually filled our home abruptly turned to fear and anxiety. This caused immense stress for me and my family. My mother and grandmother were consumed with worry and helplessness. "What's happened to you, my daughter? How did all this happen?" were questions that never left their lips. But before taking me to a hospital, out of a common cultural fear that it might be the work of an enemy or some kind of curse or black magic, I began to receive various traditional treatments at home. Wise ones and healers came to our house, trying to cure me with various herbs and prayers. However, I saw no improvement. In fact, things got worse, and I suffered even more. The swelling increased, and the pain became so intense it felt like it was tearing my heart apart. When it reached this point, going to the hospital became a necessity. We abandoned the idea of a curse and turned towards a scientific solution. I was admitted to the hospital, and doctors quickly ran tests. They took blood and urine samples, performed x-rays and ultrasounds. After a series of examinations, we were told something none of us had ever heard of, a piece of news that shattered the drums of our ears with its shock. A group of doctors, led by an older man with a compassionate face, gathered me, my mother, and my grandmother in his office. "Soon and parents," he began, his voice calm but heavy, "the tests we have conducted have shown a very unexpected result." As soon as their leader said this, our hearts filled with dread. "What's wrong with our daughter, doctor?" my mother and grandmother asked in unison. "Sun is pregnant," the doctor said directly. Those two words exploded in our ears like cannon fire. Silence fell. I couldn't believe my own ears. "What?" I thought voicelessly. My mother and grandmother were frozen like statues, their faces a mask of shock and disbelief. But, but how?" I managed to ask, my voice trembling. I'm a virgin." The doctor attempted a smile. "Yes, son, you are correct. We know you are a virgin, and that is what makes this so remarkable." This news became a shocking chapter, not just for me and my family, but even for Yossi, who had always seemed so indifferent to everything. After conducting all the necessary tests, the doctors themselves, in amazement, told me, "Kusun, be strong. Don't be shocked by what we're about to tell you. This is a rare phenomenon that happens to a very small number of women in the world. There are medical terms for it, like cryptic pregnancy, although your case has its own unique aspects. So, yes, you are indeed a virgin. The intimacy between you and your partner, even though it wasn't full intercourse, created a situation where conception was possible. It is extremely rare, but not impossible. Your due date is also near, so we will do everything we can to help you safely hold your child in your arms." What amazed me was that, despite my sin, my story started to feel similar to that of the Virgin Mary. But she conceived by the Holy Spirit, whereas I? By what? It was something beyond my comprehension. Lost for words, the first question that blurted out of my mouth was, "Wait, can a virgin actually get pregnant?" When they replied, "Yes, it's not common, but it can happen, just like it has with you," my mind flashed back to those nights with Josie. Even though we never had conventional sex, I remembered the intense touching and closeness, and I was left completely stunned. My family, however, was in a different state. The Xun they had raised with so much care and indulgence, the one they believed would never bring them shame, had come to them with a new and distressing issue that was beyond their imagination. Yet, they set everything aside and focused only on my health and the health of the baby in my womb. But the news spread everywhere. The entire town was buzzing with the rumor, Kusun is pregnant as a virgin. Everyone, some with amazement, some with suspicion, and some with mockery, pestered my mother and grandmother with the question, is it really true she got pregnant while still a virgin? During that time, our home was a place where anxiety and worry took precedence. My mother and grandmother ignored the town's gossip and focused on my health and the well-being of the child I was carrying. Let our daughter deliver safely. The rest is what happens, became their stance. Josie, too, was stunned when he heard the news and rushed to my side. Soon, is this true? How did it happen? He asked in disbelief. Through my tears, I told him everything the doctors had told us. He, just like I had been, was left speechless. But Kusun, Josie said after a long silence, this is our son or our daughter. We made a promise, but this is something beyond our control. A new question loomed over all of us. If I was truly a pregnant virgin, how would I give birth? This was a heavy question for everyone, but for me, it led me to think that I might die during childbirth. Fear invaded my heart, but thanks to technology, the doctors reassured me. Soon, don't be afraid. This isn't new to us. Through a medical procedure, a cesarean section, you will deliver your baby safely, and we can do it without disturbing your virginity. There is no danger, they convinced me. After a period of anxiety and anticipation, the day finally arrived. Through the efforts of the doctors and the prayers of my family, a healthy baby girl came safely into this world. The moment I held my daughter in my arms for the first time was a feeling that erased all the suffering and anxiety I had endured. In that instant, I felt as if I had received a gift from heaven itself. However, this experience left me with unique scars. First, because of this story, the whole town knew me and talked about me in a short amount of time. My morale and self-confidence were deeply damaged. It became incredibly difficult for me to leave the house, to meet people, to be my old self. The stares and whispers of people stabbed me like thorns. Second, this event killed the dream I had of repaying my mother and grandmother for all they'd done for me. It made me feel useless. I couldn't be the daughter who married with honor and brought them light. This tormented my heart. My family, too, did not get the one thing they desired from me. Even though they never said it out loud, the sadness and disappointment on their faces weighed heavily on my soul. Josie also felt that this whole situation meant he had failed to keep his word, that his hot-headed passion had not been controlled, that his weakness had been exposed. The relationship between us was shaken by this event. The question, I am the father of this child, but how? Constantly turned over in his mind. The love we had was tainted by suspicion and misunderstanding. If there is one thing I learned from all of this, it's how much power unforeseen circumstances have to change our lives. One small incident, one unexpected turn can alter everything you have ever dreamed of and hoped for. Now, my daughter is growing up, a little angel. Mick. As for me, I remember my past, and many questions still wander through my mind. I spend my days wondering, was what happened to me a miracle or a hidden mistake? Was the relationship between Josie and me true love, or was it just a dangerous game? And the shame I brought upon my family, how can I ever atone for it?